Hey, there we are. Jim caught us by surprise. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning in Sunday Fellowship. We're always glad to, you never tell who's going to be next to me. I tell you, Catherine's here this week, and Curtis, and maybe Jim one day. Jim shaking his head and saying, no, not me. Sylvia's been here. I mean, it's been
Jenny.
Yep, that's right. Rhonda. So we've had quite a few sitting here. Today we are going to have a time of fellowship discussion on a verse. If you read the email, Jim told me he read the title of the email, but he didn't read the email. So I saw what you were going to talk about. I said, well, did you read the email? He said no. He said no. I didn't do that. But anyway, we're going to talk about a subject today that I haven't talked about before. I don't think I've talked about this before, and I have not. I don't even think I've shared it with. Maybe I did, but you since Sylvia's been with us there for a while, so she'll remember. But there's certain verses I have fun with. Everybody has it. Maybe I say everybody, but a lot of people have passages they just have fun with, And today is one of the days I'm going to have fun with this verse. Because everybody likes this verse, like Curtis.
He likes this verse?
No, Curtis don't like this verse. Everybody likes Curtis.
They like Curtis like they like this verse.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah. And I'm telling you.
Too bad he's not up here to defend himself.
Right.
I'll have to be his advocate.
That's like a logic question. If you like this verse and you like Curtis.
Yeah. Yeah, have fun. I have fun with Curtis.
Curtis is the one sinking.
Curtis says he's the one that's sinking. I don't know, brother. We'll see about that. We'll see. But I'm going to have a little fun with this. We have covered some good ground in the last several months. A lot of good subjects. 2 weeks ago, Curtis was up here. I mean, I had somebody tell me, man, he was really on there. Yeah, he was. I saw him when I was in Arizona, and that brother was good. He was, spit was flying. Smoke was coming out of his ears.
He was yelling.
He was raising his voice. I said, my God, look at that. I didn't know he had all that in him. What goes in a man comes out of him. It's not what goes in a man, but what comes out. That defines him. But anyway, enough of that. We are going to head into this verse this morning, into the message this morning. And of course, there is the obvious. There's always the obvious. And so we're going to talk about our dear brother Peter and him walking on the water and how we do the same, or we want to do the same. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. Like I said, stick with me because I'm going to have fun with this. So we might laugh a lot. Might not be funny to you.
Well, let's step off the boat and get on, honey.
Really?
Let's get going. Yeah.
But if you step off the boat, there is nowhere to go but down.
So we don't have scuba and all that.
No scuba, no snorkels, no goggles, no fins. Yeah, I'm telling you. Okay, you can start reading, sweetheart. Jim, let us. Uh-huh.
I gotta find the document again.
See?
Like Peter, we step off the boat and sink. Why?
Why? Because we can't swim.
We took our eyes off Jesus.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough faith.
Don't get to the point.
No, I'm just kind of stirring up everybody's imagination, what you might have come up with. We don't have enough faith. That's what it is. That's what they say. Peter just didn't have enough faith.
Well, Jesus did say, "Oh, ye of little faith." But that would beg to define faith.
Exactly.
Which we will do.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Matthew 14:30. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and began to sink. He cried, saying, Lord, save me. wind was boisterous. Okay. Our message this week is on why Peter and most of us start out walking by faith and then begin to sink. Is this phenomenon due to the lack of identity? Maybe
the power of the C&S Gang. You know the circumstances and situations crowd. How about the power of desensitization to the person of Christ?
Well,
What about FOMO? Fear of missing out. I would suggest that a vast majority of people you know, or even yourself, make decisions daily that are motivated by fear of missing out. Which could mean before too long we cry, Lord, save me. All of these venues could or can be
the source by which we begin out walking by faith, at least what we call walking by faith, and start to sink with every step we take. Is this important? Yes. Why? Because first of all, far too many of us don't really know or understand what it really means to walk by faith. I think that's so true. And secondly, our ignorance of the first being...
The first means we don't really know what it means to walk by faith.
Right. Our ignorance of what is walking by faith provides the spirit of fear, the power to distract us from the power and strength of true faith. Before we read the intro verse, there are a few passages we need to read first. Paul said it this way, 2 Corinthians 5:7, "For we walk by faith, not by sight."
I wonder what that means.
We don't give in to all the situations and circumstances. We know that, and
Okay.
we know that
and-
all things.
You should walk by the Spirit and not the body.
Oh, everybody's. I mean, it's good. I tell you what, you and Catherine get up here and you do your part, then I'll come back and do my part. Jenny is over there throwing it. She's just throwing stuff in. Last week, she just threw stuff in the ring.
It works
boom.
like that. This is a group discussion. It doesn't have to be a soliloquy.
Oh, really? Curtis gets a soliloquy. Nobody does that with him.
That's because that's what he wants. There is no back row to sit on.
Let's
Stay in
go.
the front.
Keep reading. baby.
Okay, so that's 2 Corinthians 5 and 7. Romans 12 and 3. "For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith."
According as God, who have dealt
Every
to
man.
every man the measure of faith. Now think about that. That means everyone has a portion. That is a what do you mean measure? That's something that is issued. That's something that is not complete in itself, but there's a part of faith that every human being has. So that should tell us something about walking by faith. That means every human being walks by some measure of faith. That's what it means. If God gave it to you, you got it. Right, Curtis? Okay. So that means every human being is walking by some measure of faith. Now, we're still dealing with the idea faith, because most of the time, most people put faith and belief in the same boat. You step out of that boat, you're definitely going to sink. Faith and belief are not the same. It's not even the same Greek word. But let's keep going.
So, what is faith?
Oh, really?
So what is faith?
I don't know.
Is it what you believe?
I think maybe.
Many think and believe this idea. But let me say this about that idea. What we believe can be based on the knowledge we live by.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends on your point of reference, whether body or soul identity or soul and spirit identity.
Oh, so now we've divided faith into two areas. Jenny,
Yeah.
body, soul, or spirit, soul. Curtis, there's a oneness in that somewhere.
Mm-hmm. This would make our faith either third dimensional or fourth dimensional.
Oh, really? So there's a difference. So what God gave us is it third or fourth dimensional? Anybody? Third or fourth dimensional?
I think we're born out of the womb, or, when we wake up and actually know where we are, with a third dimensional faith. If mommy comes in the room, she's going to provide for you. There's your faith. And the fourth dimensional, the spiritual,
Okay.
you receive.
Okay. Anybody else? Can you guys hear those?
God gave both, but I think that's when you see it is after you receive.
Okay.
Depends on who you're one with. If your body, it's third. If it's your spirit, it's fourth.
Okay. Well, let's just check that
And a
out.
little newborn is pretty body driven. They hungry, they want, you know.
Let's just check that out and see.
Okay, continuing on.
Uh-huh.
Let's read Hebrews 11 and see what the Spirit is saying. Hebrews 11, 5, 7 through 9 and 11. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony, that he pleased God.
Okay.
By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith.
That's interesting.
By faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith Abraham sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaiah and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was discovered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. I think she actually laughed at him.
Well, that is one of the ideas behind that. But let's look at these verses a little bit more. So, what do you guys see in those verses? What is it about faith? Hebrews 11 tells us what? Those verses tell us something about faith.
These people heard in the Spirit, they heard the voice of the Lord, and they obeyed. And they received the promises thereof.
So, it says by faith. Noah, by faith Sarah, or through faith Sarah. So we all have something that happened by faith. So in that context of these passages, what is faith then?
Knowledge of God.
Right.
That measure that God gave every man.
No. Mm-mm. This is specific to those human beings. God is speaking to them. Is that not correct? So that tells us that faith is knowledge. Depends on what knowledge it refers to, depends on whether it's third or fourth dimensional. Now, God, as Jesus said in John chapter 4, God is what?
Love.
No, John chapter 4. God is, nobody. Assistant Pastor Curtis, you want to help him out?
Where was that verse? John?
John 4. It says, Jesus said, God is spirit. God is spirit. And because he's spirit, he spoke to these patriarchs by the Spirit himself. So when we're looking at Hebrews chapter 4, everybody gets in Hebrews chapter 4 calls it faith. But it is faith, but it's not the faith of those who are being talked to. It is the faith of him who is speaking. So it is his knowledge that they received, obeyed, and moved with. Noah being warned of God, of things not seen. Well, no, Noah hadn't seen them. But did God? Yes. Moved with fear, prepared an ark, saved his own house, so forth and so on, and became the heir of righteousness, which is by faith. Now, the heir of righteousness, which is by faith, what's righteousness then? Yeah. It's a person. Thank you, Pat. He redeemed it. He has redeemed his status as assistant pastor. Righteousness is a person. So when it says he became the heir of righteousness, which is by faith, it is the same by faith that the verse in it. By faith Noah. It's the same by faith. By whose faith? Noah's? By whose knowledge? Noah's? No, it's by the knowledge of God. God spoke to Noah what he wanted him to do. Did you think Noah knew what an ark was, much less rain
Or floods.
or flood? So when God told that to Noah, this verse is plain. Noah obeyed because he started building the ark, correct? And he didn't build it according to his dimensions. He built it according to who? God's dimension. He used the material God said. He said, get me some gopher wood. Noah said, gophers? What in the world is a gopher? Just joking. I tell you, I like to have fun with this. So he built it according to whose knowledge? Then that means Noah operated by the knowledge of God. That is faith in operation. God's knowledge. Not that Noah didn't have any, but God's knowledge superseded Noah's knowledge of what he was doing, or what he thought he was going to do anyway. So, same with Abraham. Abraham said by faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out unto a place which he should, after receive an inheritance, what? Obeyed. So God giving you knowledge, God giving you his mind, God giving you what he wants from you, God giving you anything does not benefit you if you don't what? Obey. Now there's a portion of that to remember. If you don't receive, you cannot obey. So it's a conclusion that Abraham received what God said so that he could obey what God said, and he got his butt moving. Because he says right after that, and he did what? And he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive an inheritance. He obeyed, not knowing whither he went. That tells us he got up and went. Okay, he didn't know where he was going. Why is it important? We have this thing important. We really think it's important to know where we're going. Oh, I don't know, Lord. I'll go. I'll go anywhere you send me. Well, where you want me to go? I don't know. Where? Oh, I don't know if I want to go there.
Okay, let me ask you. So this is Old Testament times. This is, before the cross.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think people hear God's voice in their head today saying, get up and walk out that door. I'm going to tell you where you're going to go when you walk out that door.
Is he the same yesterday, today, forever?
Well, he is, but there's the Old Testament and the New Testament.
It's
and
true.
where the promises for us.
Hang on. Think about what you're saying.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Think about what you're saying. Is he God?
Yes.
Is he spirit?
Yes.
The only difference between then and now, we didn't have access to receive his spirit and become as he is. But that doesn't stop him from being who he is. That doesn't stop him from leading and guiding us, does it?
Well, does that stop us from knowing where we're going instead of just walking out there blindly? I guess if you hear, get up and get in your car, I'll show you where we're going.
How about this? The wife says, I want to go shopping. I say, okay, I'll drive you. Where are we going? I don't know, but I'll let you know when we get there.
Yeah, the wife is different from God, honey.
It's somebody receiving something for instructions and obeying those instructions. Just really that simple. What? Get the kids in the car, y'all. We're going out to eat. Where are we going? Well, you'll know when you get there. I mean, it's really not that complicated. To the carnal mind, it's complicated because you know what that did? That deals with two things. It really deals with one, but I'm going to make it two, Curtis.
David, is it different when you're the passenger in the back seat when you're the driver? Where are we going? Honey, don't worry. I'll know when we get there.
Well, it depends. If you're driving because somebody asked you to do it for them, you're still in obedience. You're still operating by the knowledge of another person. Mm-hmm. That's faith. The knowledge you operate by is the knowledge that moves you in obedience from one place to the next. But that's two reasons. The first reason is very simple. We don't want to feel we're not in control. We like that idea of being in control. Why? Because of fear. Because of fear. Teens do it tremendously. Teenagers they're consumed with that. That's the FOMO.
They trust their buddies, though.
That's FOMO.
They have faith in their buddies.
Their
Unfortunately.
knowledge of their friends and being liked by their friends produces a faith that's in the flesh. It's knowledge, true, but it's not God knowledge. It's not God knowledge. But you'll see that in a second. So I wanted to bounce these things up because I want to establish the idea that it's important that faith produces, listen, an opportunity to obey. No one in this room, no one looking at this broadcast, no one on the face of the planet does not make a decision to obey or disobey. There is no, well, I think I will. Give me a minute. That don't count. You either obey or you do not. You either operate by the knowledge of who you obey or you still operate by your knowledge. Now, you can obey and stop. You can disobey and stop. But it's still the knowledge of another that you are following if you obey. Remember, to obey you have to receive. To disobey you have to reject.
And sometimes you have to sit still for a minute to know which ones you're doing.
That's true. That's true.
So sitting still is not necessarily disobedience.
No, it's not. Not unless it's something you know where you shouldn't be and you wind up.
You're stopping and you know you should be going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's read on.
All right. What do we see in these verses? First, something initiated by God. Next, a response by the recipient. Lastly, obediently walking by the knowledge received from God. By faith, each responded in obedience and walked by the knowledge of God. Faith is walking or living the knowledge of God or of fear.
Mm-hmm. You either walk in the knowledge of God or you're walking in
fear.
Because if it's not the knowledge of God, what's the alternative, Curtis?
Walking in fear.
It's just that simple.
Or flesh, which
That's
pretty
where
much is fear.
That's where fear has its residence. Go ahead.
But you operated by someone's knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, now let's move on to Peter and walking off the boat.
Go ahead.
There are a few passages I enjoy having fun with, and this is one of them. So why don't we read several verses to lay a foundation for the message today? It all started with a long day of miracles, included with Jesus going for a walk on the water. Let's review the miracles. Matthew 14:14, and Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude, and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick.
Okay, first miracle is what?
Healed their sick.
Heal their sick. And the day started off with him healing the sick. Let's go on. Let's look at another one.
17-19, and they say unto him, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, bring them hither to me. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude.
Okay, what do we got? Second miracle.
Fed the multitude with minimal.
Right. There's a miracle of the multiplication of victuals. Victuals, as King James said. In Curtis' favorite translation, the New American Standard, it would say food.
Say food.
It would say food.
Okay.
So he broke the loaves and the fishes and multiplied it. Mm-hmm. The feeding of the people was secondary, because if they wasn't multiplied, you wouldn't have anything to feed them. So our second miracle is multiplication of what was the victuals, of what was available. Okay, mm-hmm. Let's look at another one.
Verse 20, and they did all eat, and were filled, and they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full.
Okay, what's that miracle?
They even had extra.
Not only did he give it to the disciples, after he fed 5,000 men, not including women and children, the passage says, they went back and picked up the fragments, and each disciple had a basket to eat on himself. They had leftovers. 12 baskets. How many disciples?
12.
Each one of them had a carry-on lunchbox.
Everyone had a lunchbox.
Everyone had a lunchbox. Hey, John, did you get that? Yeah, I got it. A tisket, a tasket.
A disciple basket.
A disciple basket.
Okay.
Full. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 12 baskets full. So we have 12 baskets, 12 disciples, and each one of them, Jesus not only fed the 5,000, he gave the boys enough to take home. So that's another miracle, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, what's the next one?
Okay, verse 29, and he said, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus.
That's another miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And verse 32, and when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased.
That's another miracle. When Jesus get on the boat, everything settled down. But I'll get to that in a second. Okay, go ahead.
So we can begin reading in Matthew 14, 25 to 31.
Okay, let's read that.
And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? First, we see verse 26. They cried out in fear. This was based on what they thought they saw with their eyes, and they didn't wrap their minds around Jesus coming to them other than as they knew him.
Now look at that. They could not, what they thought they saw, most of us have that problem. Now remember, they were where they were because Jesus told them to go. We'll get to this next verse here. Jesus told them to go. So they were in obedience, Curtis. They were obeying the man. Jesus said, hey, guys, I'll catch up with you. Just go on, leave me. I'll catch up with you. They didn't think, how is he going to do that?
They took off in the boat and wondered how he was going to catch up with them.
They didn't even think about it. Okay, Jesus said go. They rolling, getting on across the lake. Storm came up. Nobody said anything but, wait a minute, guys. How's he going to get over here? We got the boat. We got the keys. We got the car. How he going to get there? So when they look up and see him coming, the only thing that they could imagine is, it's a spirit.
It's a ghost.
It's a ghost. Why? Because they'd only seen him the way they'd always seen him, according to their suitcase, Curtis. They had packed away this Jesus in their suitcase, shrink wrapped it, and could not see anything outside of the Jesus that they've been known all their life. So now they're afraid of him. It's a ghost. Oh, they cried out in fear. We do that. We think we're where God wants us to be. Stuff starts to happen, and we see some stuff coming at us. We cry, oh, Lord, what is it? It's the ghost. Oh, no. We say it's the devil. It's the devil. It's Satan. Huh? I'm being attacked. It's Satan. Satan. We can't wrap our mind around. We can't see Christ for who he is because we've already determined who he is to us apart from who he is in himself. They were already sinking. They just didn't know it. They were already sinking. Because they were there in obedience, they should have had something operating in them. The knowledge of God should have been there. Jesus didn't tell us he was going to come. He just told us to go. I imagine he's going to get there somewhere himself. We don't know that. We need to just go on a road. And wait a minute. Yo, is that Jesus? That's Jesus. Look at Jesus walking on the water, dudes. Yeah, Jesus coming. Didn't go that way. Fear superseded his command and their obedience to be where they are so that he could show them who he is to them apart from what they always have known. We do that. We want to be obedient to the Lord. Okay. But it's got to go the way we think it's going to go, Curtis. If it don't function the way we think it's going to go, then fear comes in, and before we know it, we crying out, Lord, save me! The devil is attacking me. Keep going, baby.
Are we here so we can be read?
No, you're here, honey.
Okay. First, we see in verse 26, they cried out in fear. This was based on what they thought they saw with their eyes, and they couldn't wrap their minds around Jesus coming to them other than as they knew him. They didn't see him. They didn't see they were where they are because he sent them. Matthew 14:22, and straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into the ship and to go before him unto the other side while he sent the multitudes away.
And that's plain. Isn't that faith? His knowledge was given to them. He said, hey, you guys go on. I'm going to send the people away. They still eating crumbs from the ground. I wasn't already fed them. Y'all go ahead on. I'll catch up with you. Nobody thought. They didn't have the sense enough to say, well, we got the boat, so he must have his own way. So we're gonna look for him.
Somebody else's boat.
Could be.
He'll swim out there.
Could be. That's how we treat him. We treat the things of God as though they have to fit our knowledge and understanding in the flesh. Mm-hmm. From the time they got in the boat, let me tell you something. The time they obeyed, they were on their way to a sinking experience. Much less not knowing you're sent by God. Okay, keep going, babe.
All were starting to sink in fear's illusion of what appeared to be spiritual. Notice verse 27. Straightway Jesus spake unto them and said, it is I. But he's still not on the boat.
Now, think about this. These boys are afraid to death, scared to death. Jesus said, hey, it's me. We ain't never seen you look like that. I mean, you sent us out here. I'm not sure that's you. He said, be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Now, they recognized his voice, but they didn't recognize what it looked like to them. Because right now, he's still on the water. So, when God sends you to places, when God sends you somewhere, he sets something before you, or a new job, or a vacation, or whatever it is, a new job, waiting for a new job, waiting for a new, no matter what he does, retirement, we go out because we want to be obedient. I hear that all the time. Rhonda says that a lot. I just want to be obedient. Okay. That comes with a price. That could be a sinking experience.
So obedience is always going to be stormy seas?
Could be. But for some reason, we think obedience is the end all. That does all. You see, we think just because I'm obey, everything's going to be what we consider in the flesh positive. Mm-hmm. Or attacked by the devil, which is what?
Negative.
That's what only thing that you can produce in your flesh, positive and negative. That's it. Not spiritual. So you're on a course for a sinking experience in stormy seas.
In obedience.
In obedience. Who says obedience has to be something that's positive for you in the flesh? You know, I want to go through. I want to serve God. Oh, Lord, I want to serve the Lord. So, Lord, just send me. I'll go. Okay. Look at Elijah. Isn't that wasn't it Elijah? Yeah. I'm the only one. How many? Oh, Lord, they're trying to kill me. Jezebel wants to kill me. I'm the only one that hadn't bowed down to Baal. God said, what you talking about, fool? How many did he have, Curtis? 7,000 that haven't put the knee to Baal. I ain't seen them. Where are they? He said, take my word for it. I'm giving you my knowledge. Shut up and just continue to be obedient. Walk in what I've done. I got your back. We don't think that way. Oh, they're trying to kill me. Oh, Lord, that's stormy sea. God sent him there. Didn't he? I'm the only one that's going through what I'm going through, Lord. Nobody knows how bad it is here. Please, dude, you're sinking. You better come cry for help right quick. You going to be Peter? I'm telling you. Let's get to Peter. Come on, keep going.
Next, verse 28, we see Peter wanting to do what Jesus does.
Oh, that's it, Rhonda. Everybody in religion has that strong, Jim. Everybody don't want to do what Jesus did. Everybody doing what Jesus did. Peter said, hey, if it's you, Lord, call me out. Okay, you sure? Yeah, I want to go to you. If this is really you, Lord, if this is really you, open the door. If it's not you, close the door. How many times you heard people say that? I remember 30, 40 years ago now, I heard that and the Spirit pricked me. I say, Father, why do people keep saying that? If it's you, Lord, open the door. If it's not you, Lord, close the door. Now they talking to him, want him to open and close. How in the world can you say to God, if it's you, close the door? If it's you, open the door. If it's not you, close the door. How you gonna know which one it is anyway? Do you see how thinking that is? Listen about this. If it's you, Lord, open the door. If it's not you, Lord, close the door. Oh, yes, it's a formula, but it's a formula based on what? Body, soul experience. I need to have something positive. If it's you, open the door. Make it positive. If it's not you, close the door, because I don't want to go through anything negative.
I don't want to make a mistake.
I don't want to make a mistake. All of that is still fear-based thinking. They're already sinking. Already sinking. So, Peter is like everybody that I know in religion. Even some in Christ's message that will do that. We stuck in union with God doing stuff for us, but we don't want oneness where we live as he is. We live as he is. Remember this. God did not put Christ in you to become the Son of God so that you can do what Jesus of Nazareth did. And we still got millions of believers walking around wanting to do what Jesus of Nazareth did. You can't. You can only become who he was. Who was he? He was the Son of God, just like you. So you need to be about your Father's business that he sends you to do. As he is, so are we in this world. Okay? So Lord, Father, what do you got for me? I just want you to wait. Just rest. I got it. Just relax. I'm going to send you in a minute. Don't worry, the battle is going to last. I'm going to send you in a minute, Curtis. Just relax. I got it. But I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I want to serve you, Lord. Okay, come on. Read on.
Many of us fall into the same trap, to be like Jesus, to do what Jesus did. There's only one son as him, especially at that time. Especially
at that time. Now, let me qualify something for you. I told that to Curtis and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Matthew, we did it, Curtis, matter of fact, Curtis and I did that message months ago. The gospel according to Matthew and the words of Jesus. In that message, I said specifically, the book of Matthew is strictly to who? Israel, the Jews. There are some universal verses in Matthew that covers humankind. This particular passage is a universal experience, spiritually, not physically, spiritually, because we get that. So, verse 29. Now I'm going to have to take over from here because that's as far as I got my notes. Jim, you can pull that up. Verse 29, and it says, where am I? Oh, yeah, here it is. Verse 29. It says, and he said, come. And when Peter was come out of the ship, he walked on the water to Jesus. That's a powerful verse. You would think remember I told you what faith was, right? What is faith? Knowledge of God in operation. Here, Peter is operating on the knowledge of Christ, operating to him. Not in him yet, but to him. And what did Peter do? He what? Obeyed. He obeyed. Now, let me tell you a little something about this word come. I heard a message years ago from a Baptist preacher down when I was down in a station in Florida. And it was Cinco Bayou Baptist Church back in the 80s. Cinco Bayou Baptist Church. The pastor was named Talbot. Big old tall guy, kind of hefty. He reminded you of a good. He was the prototype of the Baptist preachers you got today. He talked with a nice, strong Southern voice. Hey, God's favorite word is come. What do you think God's favorite word? He went around the church congregation and everybody held their hand. Everybody said something. He said, well, that sister said Mesopotamia. I mean, that's a beautiful word, but that's not God's favorite. What is God's favorite word? I'll never forget that message. He said God's favorite word is used more than any other word in the Bible. Well, I was ignorant, completely ignorant back then. Salvation was, at that moment, salvation for me at that time was not going to hell. That's all I knew. And he said, God's favorite word is come. What? Dude, what do you mean come? Come unto me, all ye that are laden and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So every time I look at the Bible, the word come in the King James Version is used 1972, 10 years, or if it was years, it would be 10 years after you were born.
Thank you for announcing that.
It's okay, honey. You don't look a day over 25. 1,972 times out of 1,182 verses, 1,183 verses, something like that. almost 2,000 times that verb is used. Come in the Bible. So it is a pretty popular word in the Bible. I mean, 1,900 times. Almost 2,000. 1972, we only a few verses being 2,000. So Peter is at a place where most of us at. We want God to bless us. We want God to, Lord, if this is really you, send me, I'll go. So Jesus tells Peter to come. And with that word, Peter does what? According to this verse, what did Peter do?
Stepped out of the boat.
He stepped out of the boat. He's walking by the faith of another. He's in obedience to Jesus. Well, what happened to him? Let's see what happened to him. In verse 30, it says, but when he saw, now that's the same eyes he used to look at Jesus he was afraid of just a few minutes. Same eyes, same mind, same way of thinking. So let me give you a quick clue. Miracles do not cause you to walk spiritually. Peter was a part of all those, we read it before. Peter was a part of all the miracles. Didn't change a thing. Mm-hmm. So miracles don't make you mature. Miracles don't renew your mind. Miracles don't change how you see things from the flesh to the spirit. Miracles will not and cannot do that. Mm-hmm. So it says, but when he saw the wind boisterous. Wait a minute. You don't see no wind. You feel the wind. Mm-hmm. What did he see? The water. The effect the wind had on the water. Jesus said the wind does what, Curtis? Blows where it listed, and we cannot know where it's going or where it's coming. But when they move the trees, we can tell you. Mm-hmm. This wind wasn't moving the trees. This wind was moving the water. And Peter saw the wind blowing hard, knives flashing in his face. He's down there stepping off in something he just wanted God to do. He wanted to do what Jesus did. He wanted to be like Jesus. Sound like Jenny. Want to be like Jesus. It says he saw the wind boisterous. What happened?
He started to sink.
Uh-uh.
He took his eyes off.
He was afraid. He was afraid. What he saw on the boat, looking out the water, he thought was a ghost, made him afraid. Now he's in the same place. Why is he in the same place? Because he's in the same flesh. He's in the same identity that he had before he got off the boat. He was in the boat in his flesh. He got off the boat, he was in his flesh. And all he could see was what was going wrong. Just like you do. Just like you do, assistant pastor. We step off in obedience, looking to be like Jesus, to do what Jesus, to show people that God using me. You ever been in that place? I know many a brother have been there. Oh, I want God to use me. Mm-hmm. Brother, God used a dumbass. He can use you. That's not an issue. But this brother stepped off the boat in the same flesh he had while he was there. Remember it said they looked and thought it was a ghost and they were afraid and they cried out. This is the same brother who cried out a minute ago, just minutes ago. It's a spirit. Now he says, Lord, if it be you, bid me to come unto you. Come. That's the only word Jesus said. Come. But you realize the power in that word? So much so, it penetrated Peter's flesh, went through him, and now Peter is drawn off the boat. Now, he was afraid and began to sink and cried out. So, what caused Peter to sink? Rhonda, you know what caused Peter to sink? What? Tell us. Fear. Jenny, you agree with that? You got something else? Fear. Fear. Curtis? Yeah, you afraid. I can see it coming up. You know, Curtis don't want to answer because he don't want to come off the boat. Sylvia?
I would say fear, but it was, I don't know how to explain it.
Lack of faith.
Lack of faith.
He stopped walking in and out of his body. Yeah,
He was operating in his flesh. Good, good. So when he saw those things, now you guys, if you guys have been sitting here too long, because the common idea is that he took his eyes off Jesus. That made him sink. He took his eyes off Jesus. Fear came in because he took his eyes off Jesus, saw what the wind was doing to the water, or the boisterousness of the wind. He panicked. He saw where he was. The wind's blowing. I'm done for. He starts to sink. Now, it didn't say he fell in. It said he started to sink, which means the faith he's walking in didn't disappear. He gradually began to move from walking in the spirit that Jesus had gave him in obedience and started to allow his obedience to become secondary to what he was looking at. We do that. Mm-hmm. Curtis, don't we do that? We do that, brother. We see stuff going on around us, and no matter what God said to us, it now is secondary to who we are to him. So we start to sing. It didn't say he dropped in the water. It said he sank, which means he was going like, and then he cried out, Lord, save me. Because technically, when you're in the water, you're gone like that. So we know, according to this idea that's being given us, he started to sink. But why did he sink? Was it fear? Could be. It could be. I'm quite sure when he saw that wind blowing, he saw where he was. Now, it didn't say he saw Jesus. Did it? It didn't say he saw Jesus. It said he saw the wind. Mm-hmm. So, the most people I've dealt with over the years have said to me the reason Peter sank was because he took his eyes off Jesus. Now, that's a common thought. Mm-hmm. I heard that 40 years ago now. It says he sank because he took his eyes off Jesus. When he did that, he could see the wind. He could see the things that was happening to him. That created the fear that he responded to, and he began to sink. Because when he started to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. So he's back looking at Jesus, or trying to see Jesus anyway. But that's really something we're missing in that too. Because if that idea is correct, then the word come lacks a few things. I was in Germany 30 years ago, and I was fellowshipping with this brother. He used to come over to the house, and we used to have good fellowship in the in-Christ message. He was getting turned on to the message, and one day he brought this passage to my attention. Now, I was sharing with him and teaching him who he was in Christ. And everything. So he asked me this question. He said, Brother David, there's a verse I'd like you to look at. He gave me this verse. He said, why did Peter sink? He said that way. It was a question. I said, well, brother, it's very simple. I'm teaching him, so I I'm the teacher. He looked at me for an answer, so I gave him the answer. I put it in my suitcase. My suitcase and all those before me had told me it's very plain. He sunk because he took his eyes off Jesus. And the brother said to me, well, Brother Dave, I don't see that. I said, what do you mean? He said, he didn't sink because he took his eyes off Jesus. I said, brother, right here it says he saw the wind. So if he didn't see the wind, to see the wind, he had to take his eyes off Jesus. He said, yes, that's what it says. He said, but think about what that verse says. Peter asked Jesus to call him, if it be him, to bid him to come on, and Jesus said, come. What caused him to sink is he moved from obedience in coming into what? Disobedience when he stopped. Because you see, he was walking along and he did this and he saw those things. It wasn't that he took his eyes off Jesus. What he stopped doing was obeying. In the midst of your situation and circumstances, we tend in the flesh to do what? Stop obeying. When we stop obeying, the power that got us to where we are, to brought us into that, begins to be secondary to whatever it is we're distracted with. Mm-hmm. See, our distraction is not keeping our eyes on Jesus. Our distraction is Satan wants to cause us to become disobedient because our strength and power is in the obedience. So Jesus didn't say, come, but keep your eyes on me. That's the way we interpret that. Come, watch me. He didn't say it. Jesus understood something about the power of his word. Come. Peter stepped out on come, not look. Peter didn't step out on come and look, come and see. Now there's some verses that said, that song that say, keeping our eyes on Jesus. But you understand, if you follow that idea, I'm gonna quote my dear brother, Assistant Pastor Curtis. If you follow that idea, you're trapped in a two-person gospel because there's Jesus and me. Mm-hmm. And I got to keep my eyes on Jesus, who is apart from me. Mm-hmm. But if I operate on the word come, I'm one with him because I'm in obedience with the word he gave me. I'm coming on his knowledge operating in me. And when those seeds and those things, moisture start to happen, I just keep right on walking. Ooh, Lord, look at this. My God, look at this. I can still be obedient and understand the things that's going on around me has nothing to do with what I'm walking in and the knowledge I was given to walk by. But when you stop walking by that knowledge, you need to do something. And what do? You need to look. Jesus never told Peter to look. He never told Peter, keep your eyes on me. Come, but keep your eyes on me, because if you don't keep your eyes on me, you're going to sink. It's bigger than that. Not only is there union, there's oneness with that knowledge. Peter had union with that knowledge, but he wasn't one with it. Because if he'd have been one with it, what would he have done, Curtis? He kept right on moving, even though the situation and circumstances was overwhelming. Even though the thought said, you can't walk on water. I'm going to keep moving whether I can or not. I'm going to keep moving. That's, well, like I said, I like to have fun with this verse. Because everybody wants to tell you the issue with the sinking is your eyes are not on Jesus. I want to encourage you. There's no union in that. There's no oneness in that. You're dealing with two people, me and Jesus. Keep my eyes on Jesus. Well, if he's in you, how are you going to do that? You got to take him out of you to do that. You got to walk down the aisle with you. Well, we're supposed to see through to the Christ that's in us. Have you heard that? How you do that? If I'm one with my Father, then I'm already the Son. So my eyes should be seeing through these things to my Father and walking in obedience to him. Let's see. Verse 31. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little. That's that measure we get back to in Romans 12:3. That's the measure. O thou of little. What little? You started out in obedience, but you got distracted in the flesh. So you didn't have the full ramifications of faith. My knowledge didn't operate in you all the way. My knowledge didn't operate. You wasn't one with me. Because you can't walk in the spirit and what?
And in the flesh at the same time.
You cannot walk in the spirit and in the flesh at the same time. It's an impossibility. They're not equal. They're not the same. 1/3 dimension and 1/4 dimension. So you can't walk in the flesh and in the spirit at the same time. One's got to be avoided. One's you got to let go of. Peter decided union was as far as he wanted to go. And so he looked away. He got distracted. And without being one with that word of come, that's the knowledge I'm operating by, he sank. And Jesus said, O ye of little faith, wherefore doest thou doubt? What do you mean by doubt, Jesus? He didn't doubt you. When he stopped coming, he doubted the word that he was walking in. And the Bible, the next verse 32, it says, and when they came on board, the wind ceased. We looked at that up here, verse 32. We looked at that, Catherine, it's one of the miracles. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about that? I like that passage. I like this thing. I have fun with this. Because everybody says the same thing. He took his eyes off Jesus. He was saying, that's what we do. We take our eyes off Jesus. We can't make it. Brother, if he's in you, your eyes are in the wrong place. You're not one with the Son. He's not who you are. He doesn't. Remember, God puts Christ in you to make you someone to the Father. That someone is the Son. The Son can walk wherever the Father leads him if he continues to be one with the Father. My Father and I, how many, Curtis? I'm not concerned about sinking.
Regardless of all the situations and circumstances that are
I don't have a fear of sinking.
going crazy around you.
I don't have a fear of sinking. That's crazy. I know. I don't have a fear of sinking. I don't have a fear of being wrong.
Well, what about if the situation is going in a way you don't like and you want to fix it?
No. You're adding words to my thinking.
No, I'm just saying the you and the collective. If somebody was to say, I don't like my spouse is trying to divorce me, and that is wrong.
That's a Star Trek. That's a collective. What do you call it? The Borg. That's the Borg. I'm in the collective. No, I'm not in the collective. Listen to me. No matter what they want, no matter what is happening, my number one response is not to the situation. My number one response for years is to my Father. Simple as that. I said to him not too long ago, I said, Father, Satan wants you to engage in him. People do that. Devil, you're a lie. I did. I grew up in Pentecostal holiness. I know. Devil, you're a lie. Get thee behind me, Satan. I grew up there thinking. I was part of my suitcase. I had to walk away from that.
It was your carry-on, honey.
That's right. It was my carry-on. I didn't check that bag.
Backpack.
You can't check that bag because you might need what's in it. You can't be checking that. It's on the bottom of the plane. Stuff going on inside. You need to have your bag with you that you can whip it open and say,
Devil, you're a liar.
Devil, you're a liar. In the name of
Get
Jesus,
thee
I
behind
command
me.
you to get thee behind me. There's people that still do that stuff. I think that's where you are. Amen. Praise the Lord. Thank you. But I don't live that way. I talk to my Father about everything. I say, Father, that boy's acting a fool. You need to do something with him. I'm not going to mess with him. When the angel Gabriel was getting the body of Moses, Satan tried to stop him. And Gabriel said, I rebuke you in the Lord. Gabriel's an angel just like Lucifer. He could have put up a good fight. He didn't. So I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to mess with Satan. I'm not going to mess with situations. I'm not going to mess with that brother or this sister or whoever else there is struggling over who's right and who's wrong. You want to argue with me over your doctrines, your belief systems, stuff you grew up with for years. To me, that's stepping out on the water ready to sink. You're going to sink with that. You're going to sink because it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. God didn't put Christ in me to have me do what Jesus of Nazareth did. He put Christ in me to make me the Son of God to him as Jesus of Nazareth was. And the Word was made flesh, what?
And dwelled among us.
And we beheld his
Only
glory
begotten.
as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. The only word in that the only word in that would not fit you is the word only begotten. That's the only word in that verse that does not apply to you. Only begotten, because at that time he was. But since the cross, Curtis, what happened?
The firstborn of many brethren.
Many brethren. Many sons. So I'm not going to argue with you over that. You can stay on that boat. You can step out in that and start singing and calling. I can depend on Jesus to deliver me. Good. Hey man, praise the Lord. Good for you. But you'll never learn what Paul said. I've learned that whatsoever state I'm in, to be content. I've been instructed. You will never learn that, because you'll never get from Philippians 4:11 and 4:12, you'll never get to 4:13. Because I've learned that whatsoever state I'm in, to be content. I've been instructed by God to do that. I've been instructed. I've learned that. Why? Because I can do all things through Christ, who not gives me, is my strength. See, that's a Bible verse if you haven't been through 11 and 12. 13 is a memory verse. Jenny, it's a memory verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Devil, get thee behind me. That's not a match. That's not a match, Curtis. There's no oneness in that. I've been instructed. I've learned that no matter how much the wind's blowing, I keep moving to my Father. I'm not talking about Jesus, because Jesus is not our Father. Nowhere in here Jesus is our Father. I move to my Father, and I talk to him. Father, I know you sent me, and I know when you send me to wherever I'm going, you give me tell me that years ago, I got 3 things everywhere he sent me. I got provision, God provides. I got protection, God will keep. And I got anointing, God's knowing, God's knowledge. I keep that. Now, if I'm going to Ghana, I have that. If I'm going to the bathroom, I got that. I'm going over to see Jake, I got that. We going out to lunch, I got that. 3 things, because I'm being sent. If I'm not sent, I don't go. I just don't go. Because fear takes over and you sink before you even get there. Well, that's enough. I've had fun with this. You had fun with this?
I had fun with this.
Good. Nowhere is Peter told to keep his eyes on Jesus. He's told to come. And by that revelation, by that knowledge, by that faith, the faith of Jesus, Peter stepped off the boat. He stopped operating by the faith of Jesus and started operating by the faith he has in the flesh of what he saw. That's his knowledge. Remember, when he saw, that means his knowledge was operating. When that happens, you're going to sink. And you might not go under. The Father loves you since the cross. Grace covers that. You want to go under, Curtis. You just go up to your neck and you think you're going to drown.
Swim.
Swim. That's
Start
good.
kicking.
Start kicking. In either case, that sounds to me like that's self-effort in it.
Totally self-evident.
But in this case, Jesus reached down, grabbed him, and pulled him out.
Because he went back to the knowledge of God.
Right.
When he cried out to him. He said,
Right. He went back.
You're
But
not going to ask somebody to save you if you know that person didn't have
the power, the capability to save you. That's correct.
So that's, yeah.
So, with that said, we're going to finish for the day. We want to thank you guys for joining us this Sunday in Sunday Fellowship. I had a great time. Curtis, I'm going to try not to holler and hoop at you like Curtis did and have fire blowing out of my nose and smoke coming out of my ears. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. God bless you. Have a great week in Christ, and try not to step off the boat and sink.
Step off the boat and walk.
Yep, step off the boat and walk. In obedience. That's correct.